Well, we're going to keep moving forward with the show here, maybe sticking with this theme of imprisonment and mass incarceration, and certainly sticking with the theme of politics. And that is the issue of political prisoners, specifically not a new effort, but a renewed effort to push for the freedom of Mutulu Shakur in the wake of what I would say are some relatively significant developments in terms of David Gilbert and Russell Maroon Shoatz, political prisoners being released from prison. We are very happy to be joined for this conversation by Jonathan Stith, who is an organizer with the Malcolm X Grassroots movement in D.C. and also the Free Mutulu Now campaign. Jonathan, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, it's so excited to be here.
Well, we're really excited to have you. And, this is a really interesting time for, those of us who have been addressing issues around political prisoners, for some time now. We've had both last year and this year some of the true stalwarts of liberation movements in this America who are behind bars released. And I guess maybe that's the first question I just want to ask you. And thinking about this renewed push, this Free Mutulu Now campaign, how are you feeling about the overall atmosphere around the issue of political prisoners?
It's a very interesting time. I think when we understand kind of where we are with the kind of presidential politics and Biden and his unrelenting support of police in the face of the largest mass mobilization that the universe has ever seen since Steven Universe, in the face of that, and kind of doubling down on policing. And yet we see the recent release of Russell Maroon Shoatz, David Gilbert being his sentence being commuted. And I think most importantly, the International Tribune on the Spirit of Mandela that happened in New York, I think 2 weeks ago, really in front of an international set of jurists. The U.S. was found guilty of 5 counts of genocide that included the imprisonment of political prisoners. And so I think this is a moment for us to really actually lean in, and for all of us who have been a part of the work of helping to free political prisoners to actually, we all need to be in the effort to renew our call to push forward with this news that, again, 70 years later, the United States is found guilty of genocide. And now there should be no question around the COINTELPRO's illegal activity and what it has cost and who has paid the cost. And as we say with Dr. Mutulu Shakur, 35 years is enough. And we call for free Dr. Mutulu Shakur and all political prisoners.
Mm-hmm. And, it's maybe in some ways a good segue talking about some of those who have just been released. Obviously, David Gilbert and, Sekou Odinga, who was previously released, sort of tied to the same set of events that Dr. Mutulu Shakur has been tied to. Tell us, who is Dr. Mutulu Shakur? I know some people have probably heard the name in relationship to Tupac and that world, but tell us more about him and his struggle prior to being imprisoned.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how I learned about Dr. Mutulu Shakur, all the shout outs on the Tupac songs. I was like, I got to figure out who this is. So absolutely, long live the spirit of Tupac Shakur. But Dr. Mutulu Shakur is a father, grandfather, healer, and human rights organizer who was part of the New African Independence Movement. Doc, he was politicized very early on in his life. His mother was blind, so he had to deal with the vicious state social justice system or social injustice system, trying to get support for his mom. At 15, was recruited into the Republic of New Africa by Herman Ferguson out of New York, who was a principal at the time, who was involved in the Ocean Hill-Brownsville fight around community control. And Mutulu was part of, or was at New Bethel in 1969 at the shootout. And part of his story is that he shielded both Herman Ferguson and his partner, I.I. Ferguson, from the police bullets that spread. And so Mutulu has a long history of activism. He's most known for his work around acupuncture. And I think connected to the earlier story where y'all were talking about heroin in the United States, Mutulu and the work of the Black liberation movement, along with the Young Lords, along with the Republic of New Africa, were actually like a stalwart, were standing in the path of the government's plot to dope our communities out and then criminalize them for it. And I think that's part of such important around the fight now. Like, they have evidence, right? This dude came out and said Nixon did it. Yeah, we did it. We said we were going to criminalize a whole sets of communities using drugs, and they did it. And Doc and other political prisoners stood in the way of that. And Doc specifically because they have found an alternative way to deal with methadone in the community using acupuncture, which again, he discovers trying to find a solution to one of his children had been severely injured in a car accident. And they had been told by Western medicine that they would never walk again. And so Doc comes across acupuncture, and the acupuncture actually heals his daughters in ways that Western medicine couldn't. And so there's also a way that we have to understand the work that they were doing and why we can do reflexology and all of the wonderful shishi woo woo things that we do, right? Alternative medicine comes from a revolutionary struggle that was carried about by Dr. Mutulu Shakur and others. And he's been in prison 35 years. I think it's important to know he's suffered, he has stage 3 cancer, has suffered 2 strokes and glaucoma, and has glaucoma. So there's this way that, again, this is an elder who's dying in prison, and he served his time, right? He served his time, who should be let free.
Yeah. I mean, it's an important issue on so many levels. He's served his time. He obviously is facing serious health challenges. And, and I know this is always a conversation. In a way, you could argue it really wouldn't matter to me if he, like, quote unquote, did what he said he was doing. I mean, these are political prisoners of war. They're not criminals. And I think that's political status is crucially important. It was something, obviously, the Irish Republican Army fought for years in the UK, political status that we need here in the United States. But I do think it is important to recognize that essentially they had no evidence at all. I mean, they grabbed him up, allegedly said he was providing material support. The whole to an action that took place, the Brinks robbery. The whole thing was a complete and total railroad, and that it really does represent also just the unbelievable racism of the criminal justice system, mass incarceration, and all of that, with the ease with which they were able to put him in prison on essentially nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Doc, he's charged under the RICO Act, right? And we've seen how that has been used to persecute Black communities. Anybody familiar with the hip hop community knows the RICO Act has been used to really fuel mass incarceration, and Doc is charged under that. So you're absolutely right. There is no physical evidence to say he was there. But for me, I'm with you. I'm like, let's talk about what he's accused of. He's accused of liberating Assata Shakur. Who's mad at that? Who thinks Doc should still be in jail for the liberation of Assata Shakur? Let's talk about it, right? Because we chanting, it's our duty to fight, it's our duty to win all day long. And she told us to free those who helped free her or who are in jail for freeing her. The second one is they're accused of robbing banks. And where did the money go? It didn't go to their pockets, right? They went to supporting camps for Black kids in Mississippi. Who's mad at that? Who's really? Come on, talk to me, right? And then he's accused of sending money to African liberation movements abroad, particularly Zimbabwe.
It's a great accusation.
So again, right. So I'm like, yeah, and 35 years later, let's free this man. Free Dr. Mutulu Shakur. I don't understand what we understand around the world now, the evils of COINTELPRO, that we can, with any conscience, not fight for his release and a release of all political prisoners. They don't deserve to die in jail.
Well, talk about the campaign and talk about what you all are doing. I don't know if we've actually left the official week, but I know there's the Free Mutulu Week, and MXGM has been pushing and gathering forces all around the country to renew this push and push even harder.
Yeah, absolutely. So the campaign, though, the week of action is 35 cities, 35 actions to commemorate the 35 years that Doc has been held in federal prison. And we're asking groups and chapters in the MXGM have been doing events all week to educate, motivate, and organize our people to endorse and support the campaign to free Dr. Mutulu Shakur. There's also, Doc is not alone in terms of there are 4 other political prisoners who are also held by the federal government who have received multiple denials of parole. And we believe that clemency is their only way they're going to get free. And so we're calling for their freedom as well. That includes Leonard Peltier, Bill Nunn, and some other political prisoners I can't remember off the top of my head, so I'm sorry, but you can check
Mhm.
out the demands on our website. And there's also 200 other prisoners that we assume are probably Black and brown folks who are under old federal law, who also have little chance of getting free, and we want to free them as well. They're all like there's no chance of doing anything other than going home to be with their families. And then our third demand is to free them all, and that we really demand or calling for our people to actually really build a movement for the freedom of political prisoners. We have to understand this is part of the reparations that is due to us for the continuum. But if you want to just mark it at the 60s with what has been done with the war on drugs, it's easy to arrive at the conclusion that Dr. Mutulu Shakur should be a part of every reparations package. Every consequence of demand around ending the drug war should be the freedom of political prisoners, starting with Dr. Mutulu Shakur. So folks
Mhm.
are taking action in DC. With folks are doing events on November 2nd. That's the day Assata Shakur was liberated. I think Philadelphia, they also did a screening of Dope is Death, and we invite folks to take action, right? And it's really small action. So you can watch the film Dope is Death, have a discussion around what you saw, sign, endorse the campaign. We're asking people to also sign his clemency petition, to donate in multiples of 35, to write Dr. Mutulu Shakur again. He's had 2 strokes and suffering. His health is getting worse. I think this is also some of the urgency of our demand. So we're inviting folks to write Dr. Send him messages. These messages offer hope and healing, and give him strength, and also give us strength to let him know he's not forgotten and that there's a movement brewing to fight for his freedom.
Mhm. Right on. Well, where can people look online or elsewhere to find out more about how they can get involved?
Absolutely. They can go to the Malcolm X Grassroots Movement website, free to land, mxgm.org/free Mutulu now.
Right on. Well, Jonathan, thank you so much. Really appreciate you giving us some time, helping us, sort through this and understand it, and helping people know how they can get engaged and take action to free Dr. Mutulu Shakur.
All right, free to land.